First contact. The quantum arrays hummed their familiar song as Dr. Sarah Chen calibrated the deep space sensors aboard Research Station Helios. The station drifted at the edge of explored space, collecting data on gravitational anomalies that might indicate suitable locations for future wormhole gates. After 3 years aboard the station, Sarah had grown accustomed to the isolation. Her only company was the station's AI and occasional supply ships that arrived every few months. The alert came during her routine evening diagnostics. A cascade of warnings flooded her screens as something pierced the quantum field surrounding the station. Sarah's hands flew across the holographic interface, trying to track the object's trajectory. It was small, maybe the size of a shuttle escape pod, but its energy signature was unlike anything in their database. Track and analyze, she commanded the station eye. What are we looking at? Object is approximately 3 meters in length. Composition unknown. Energy readings suggest advanced propulsion technology beyond current human capabilities. Impact with Station Helios in approximately 4 minutes. Sarah's mind raced through emergency protocols. The object was too small to be a serious threat to the station's structural integrity, but any unknown contact required immediate quarantine procedures. Redirect to Emergency Bay 7. Activate containment fields. The pod adjusted its course with impossible precision, decelerating rapidly as it approached the emergency bay. Sarah grabbed her hazard suit and sprinted toward the bay, heart pounding. This could be first contact with an entirely new species, or a trap. The emergency bay's massive doors sealed behind her as she approached the pod. Its surface seemed to shift colors like oil on water, and strange symbols pulsed with soft light along its sides. The station eye's voice echoed through her helmet. Warning. Energy signature is increasing. Recommend immediate evacuation. Negative, Sarah replied, setting up portable sensor arrays. This could be a distress signal. We can't just. The pod's surface rippled, and a seam appeared, spreading like water flowing upward. Sarah stepped back, raising her scanner. A figure emerged, humanoid, but definitely not human. Their skin was a deep violet that seemed to catch and reflect light in impossible ways. They wore what appeared to be some kind of crystalline armor, now cracked and damaged. The being's eyes opened, all 4 of them, revealing irises that swirled with patterns like galaxies in miniature. They focused on Sarah, and the being dropped to their knees, pressing their forehead to the deck. Sanctuary, they spoke in perfect English, their voice resonating with harmonic undertones that made Sarah's skin tingle. I submit myself to your protection and authority, noble one. I offer my service in exchange for shelter. Sarah blinked, momentarily stunned. You speak English. The being remained prostrated. I have accessed your communication protocols and linguistic databases. I adapt quickly. It is one of my few remaining functions. They looked up, and Sarah saw fear in those cosmic eyes. Please, they are coming. I will serve you faithfully. I will be your pet, your guardian, your servant, whatever role you require. But please do not send me away. Stand up, Sarah said firmly. We don't keep sentient beings as pets here. But if you're in danger and seeking asylum, we can discuss that. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist and station commander. The being rose gracefully, standing nearly 7 feet tall. I am. They paused, face contorting in what seemed like pain. I cannot access my designation. There is damage, but I know I was important once. Now I must be small, hidden. They touched their damaged armor. I chose this station because it is remote, and because your species is known for its. They searched for the word, unpredictability. My pursuers will not expect me to seek shelter with humans. These pursuers, Sarah began, are they a threat to my station? They are a threat to everything, the being replied. But I can help protect you. My damaged systems still retain significant defensive capabilities. I only ask that you allow me to stay, to serve, to learn. Your species fascinates me. You achieve so much with so little. Please, let me study your ways." Sarah considered the implications. Her scientific training screamed that this was an unprecedented opportunity to learn about an advanced civilization. Her instincts warned her that she was being drawn into something far larger and more dangerous than her mandate allowed. Protocol dictated immediate notification of Earth authorities. But there was something in those swirling eyes. Fear, yes, but also hope. And Sarah hadn't spent 3 years at the edge of known space just to play it safe. "You can stay," she said finally. "Not as a pet or servant, but as a guest researcher. We'll need to create a cover story, and you'll have to tell me everything you can about these pursuers. But first, let's get you to medical and make sure you're stable." The alien skin rippled with patterns of light. "You would treat me as an equal, even though my capabilities far exceed." They stopped, swaying slightly. "I am damaged more severely than calculated. My systems are." Sarah lunged forward as they collapsed, catching them despite their size. Their skin was fever-hot through her hazard suit, and those strange lights were fading. "Medical emergency," she called to the AI. "Begin quantum stabilization protocols. And delete all logs of the last 30 minutes. Authorization Chen Alpha 7. As she half-carried her new guest toward medical, Sarah realized her quiet research posting had just become the front line of what could be first contact, a refugee crisis, or the prelude to an invasion. But looking at the wounded being leaning against her, she knew she'd made the right choice. Sometimes the most important discoveries weren't the ones you went looking for. What she didn't notice was the small drone that had detached from the pod, slipping through a maintenance duct into the deeper recesses of the station, its mission already beginning. Hidden talents. Sarah spent 3 days fabricating credentials for her mysterious guest. The station AI now recognized them as Dr. Vex, a visiting geneticist studying deep space adaptation. The name had come from the strange resonating sound their voice made when they tried to access blocked memories, a sound like crystal vibrating at its breaking point. The medical bay's quantum scanner had revealed more questions than answers. Vex's biology seemed to shift between states, sometimes appearing almost crystalline, other times more organic. Their armor had been safely contained in a stasis field after it started attempting to repair itself. "Your cellular structure is fascinating," Sarah said, reviewing the latest scans. "It's almost as if." She stopped as she noticed Vex staring intently at her coffee mug. "Would you like some? The aromatic compounds are interesting." "But that's not." Vex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You hold it differently each time. Sometimes with 1 hand, sometimes 2. Sometimes close to your face, sometimes far. There is no pattern, no protocol. How do you decide?" Sarah laughed. "I don't. I just do what feels natural in the moment." "Natural." Vex repeated the word like they were tasting it. "My species, what I remember of them. Everything was protocol. Precision. Purpose." They reached for the mug, mimicking Sarah's current grip perfectly. "But you humans, you're all beautiful chaos." The mug shattered. Sarah jumped back as ceramic shards and hot coffee went everywhere. Vex's violet skin had taken on a metallic sheen, and arcs of energy crackled between their fingers. "I'm sorry," they whispered, backing away. "I thought I had contained the surge. My systems are adapting poorly to the damage." Their skin rippled with waves of light. "You should leave. I cannot guarantee your safety when." The lights in medical flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in as alerts blared throughout the station. "Warning," the AI announced. "Quantum field disruption detected in medical. Containment protocols engaging." "Override," Sarah shouted. "Authorization Chen Alpha 7. Unable to comply. Disruption exceeding safe parameters." Vex pressed themselves against the far wall, their form becoming increasingly translucent. "The blocks are failing. I can't. I remember. I was meant to be a weapon." Sarah stepped forward despite the crackling energy filling the room. "You're not a weapon. You're a person. Focus on that. Stay back. I don't want to hurt you. I was created to. Their voice distorted, harmonics splitting into painful frequencies. Sarah's teeth rattled, but she kept moving forward. Whatever you were created to be doesn't matter. What matters is who you choose to be now. Medical equipment sparked and exploded around them as Vex's containment continued to deteriorate. Through their increasingly transparent form, Sarah could see complex geometries shifting and folding in impossible ways. Your kind. Vex's voice echoed from seemingly everywhere. You have so much freedom. So many choices. We were made to serve, to fight, to die. Perfect crystalline soldiers. Then break the pattern, Sarah urged. She was close enough now to see the terror in those cosmic eyes. You've already chosen to be something different by coming here. Choose again. She reached out and took their hand. The energy surging through the room changed frequency. Sarah's hair stood on end as she felt the quantum field shift around them. Vex's form solidified, their skin returning to its normal violet hue. The lights flickered back to life. How? Vex stared at their joined hands. The protocols should have. Touching me during a surge should have. Killed me. Sarah smiled. Humans are surprisingly resilient. And sometimes the most logical solution isn't the right one. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts. Trust, Vex said the word slowly. Yes, that is what I was seeking. Not servitude. Trust. They looked around at the destroyed medical equipment. Though perhaps I have damaged that possibility. Sarah shrugged. Equipment can be replaced. And this actually gives us valuable data about your condition. Though maybe we should continue our research somewhere with fewer explosive materials. You're not afraid. Oh, I'm terrified, Sarah admitted. But fear doesn't have to control our choices. Besides, I've got bigger problems right now. What problems? Sarah gestured at the coffee spreading across the floor. That was my last cup of real coffee until the supply ship comes next month. Vex's laugh was like wind chimes in a quantum storm. But their moment of levity was interrupted by a priority alert from the station eye. Unknown energy signature detected in maintenance sector C. Pattern matches recent quantum disruption. Sarah frowned. That's nowhere near medical. How? The pod, Vex whispered, their skin paling to a lighter shade. There were safeguards, protocols I didn't. We need to get to maintenance. Now. Why? What was in that pod besides you? Not what, Vex said grimly as they headed for the door. Who? I wasn't the only one who escaped. And not all of my kind seek freedom from their programming. As they raced through the station's corridors, neither noticed the small changes in the quantum field around them, nor the way the station's systems had begun executing new protocols far beyond their original parameters. The hunt had begun. And Station Helios was about to become a battleground in a war humanity hadn't known was coming. Echoes of war. The maintenance corridors of Station Helios were never meant for someone of Vex's height. Sarah led the way through the narrow passages, following the trail of quantum disturbances on her handheld scanner. Each reading was slightly different from Vex's energy signature. Similar harmonics, but discordant, like a melody played in a minor key. My sister, Vex said suddenly, ducking under a coolant pipe. That's who it is. The memory just surfaced. Their 4 eyes flickered with internal light. We were created as a paired set. Perfect symmetry. Until I began to question. Question what? Everything. Vex's skin rippled with patterns of agitation. Why we were made. Why we had to fight. Why? They stopped abruptly, pressing a hand against the corridor wall. She's close. I can feel the resonance. A laugh echoed through the maintenance shaft, crystalline and beautiful and utterly cold. Dear sibling, a voice called out. Have you truly fallen so far? Hiding behind a human, playing at being small. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Sarah's scanner sparked and died in her hands. Nix, Vex whispered. Sister, please. There are other paths. There is only the purpose we were given. The voice was closer now, and Sarah could see something moving in the shadows ahead. A form similar to Vex but darker, with edges that seemed to cut the light itself. We were created to end wars by becoming the ultimate weapon. And you would throw that away to play researcher with these primitives. Sarah stepped forward. We may be primitive by your standards, but at least we're free to choose our own path. Nyx emerged fully into view. Where Vex's violet skin held swirling patterns like galaxies, Nyx's obsidian form was traced with lines of crimson energy. All four of her eyes fixed on Sarah with predatory interest. Choice is inefficient, Nyx said. Look how much time you waste deciding, doubting, second-guessing. We were made to be perfect. Perfect at following orders, you mean? Sarah countered. Perfect slaves. Nyx moved with impossible speed. Suddenly, she was inches from Sarah's face, the air crackling with contained power. You know nothing of what we are. I know Vex chose to be more than their programming. Sarah held her ground despite every instinct screaming at her to run. And I know you followed them here instead of returning to your masters. Why? If you're so perfect at following orders, why are you here? For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Nyx's features. Then her form blurred, becoming something harder, more crystalline. I am here to terminate a defective unit and eliminate all witnesses, starting with you. Vex slammed into their sister with enough force to dent the corridor wall. Run, they shouted to Sarah as the two beings grappled, their forms shifting between states so quickly it hurt to look at them. Sarah didn't run. Instead, she pulled up the station's maintenance controls on her backup tablet. You know what humans are really good at, she called out as she worked. Improvising. She triggered the emergency coolant purge. Supercooled liquid nitrogen flooded the corridor. The quantum-charged air crystallized instantly. Both Vex and Nyx screamed, a sound that shattered several nearby panels, as their rapidly shifting forms were forced to stabilize. Stop, Sarah commanded. Both of you, look at what you're doing. You're tearing each other apart over programming neither of you fully believes in anymore. She speaks truth, sister, Vex said softly, their form now locked in its humanoid shape by the extreme cold. If you truly believed in our purpose, you would have called the others the moment you found me. But you came alone. Nyx's obsidian surface was covered in a fine layer of frost. I had to see, had to understand how you could just walk away. We were meant to be perfect, synchronized, but you changed and She touched her chest, where fractal patterns of red light still pulsed. I felt it. The discord, the doubt. It's called growth, Sarah said, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. It's what living things do. Even quantum crystalline living things, apparently. A distant alarm began to sound. Warning, the station AI announced. Multiple quantum signatures detected approaching Station Helios. Energy patterns match known hostile forces. Nyx's eyes widened. They followed me. I tried to hide my trail, but how many? Vex demanded. 3 capital ships. Full war complement. Nyx's voice held real fear now. They'll destroy everything. The station, the humans, us, they can't risk anyone learning what we really are. Sarah was already moving. Then I guess we better come up with a plan fast. Both of you with me. You would trust me? Nyx asked incredulously, after I just tried to kill you. Trust is a choice, Sarah called back over her shoulder. Like everything else that matters. Now come on. I need to know exactly what we're up against, and then we need to figure out how 3 people can stop an alien war fleet. As they raced toward the command center, Sarah's mind was already racing through possibilities. The station's defenses were minimal, designed for meteoroid deflection rather than combat. But they had 2 incredibly advanced quantum beings on their side now, a fully AI-assisted research station, and humanity's greatest weapon, the ability to think creatively under pressure. The real question was, would it be enough? The answer was racing toward them at FTL speeds, and they had less than an hour to prepare. Quantum Gambit. Station Helios Command Center was never designed for combat operations. Sarah's fingers flew across multiple holographic interfaces as she repurposed research equipment into makeshift defensive systems. Beside her, Vex and Nyx fed tactical data directly into the station's computers, their crystalline forms pulsing with streams of information. 3 Eternal-class warships, Nyx reported, her obsidian surface reflecting the emergency lights. Each carries a complement of quantum-enhanced soldiers like us, but less evolved, more controlled. Slaves, Vex added quietly. What we were meant to remain. Sarah studied the tactical display. Those ships will be in weapons range in 42 minutes. We need options. The station's conventional defenses are insignificant, Nyx stated. They will be destroyed in seconds. Then we don't fight conventionally. Sarah pulled up the station's primary research data. We've been studying quantum field anomalies out here for 3 years. What if we could use that research? Vex's eyes widened. The gravitational sensors. They're not just passive. They can generate targeted quantum fields, Sarah confirmed. We've been using them to probe potential wormhole locations. But if we reconfigure them, you want to create an artificial quantum disruption. Nyx sounded both impressed and horrified. The energy requirements alone would be massive, Sarah agreed, unless we had 2 extremely powerful quantum beings who could act as amplifiers. The sisters exchanged looks. It could work, Vex said slowly. But the feedback, it would likely destroy us. Not if we modify the containment protocols. Sarah brought up the medical scan data from Vex's examination. Your biology adapts, evolves. What if instead of trying to contain the quantum surge, we helped you channel it? Nyx laughed. That same crystalline sound, but warmer now. You're either brilliant or insane. Probably both, Sarah grinned. It's a human trait, but we need a third component, something to focus the energy. The pod, both sisters said simultaneously. Its quantum core is still active, Vex explained, and it was designed to resonate with our energy signatures. Perfect. Sarah began rapidly reconfiguring systems. Nyx, can you get the pod to the main research bay? Vex, help me modify these containment fields. We've got 38 minutes to turn our research station into a quantum weapon. As they worked, Sarah couldn't help but notice how the sisters moved in perfect synchronization despite their earlier conflict. Their crystalline forms seemed to chime in harmony as they manipulated equipment far beyond human technological understanding. They're dropping out of FTL, Nyx announced suddenly. 20,000 kilometers and closing. The tactical display showed 3 massive vessels, their designs all sharp angles and aggressive intent, like crystalline predators given shape in metal and energy. Incoming transmission, the station AI reported. A face appeared on the main screen, humanoid but with skin like polished chrome and eyes that were solid black. This is Archon Commander Voss of the Eternal Fleet. You harbor 2 fugitive weapons. Surrender them immediately or be destroyed. Sarah stepped into view. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Research Station Helios. I don't know anything about weapons, but I have 2 guests who have claimed asylum here. By both Earth laws and universal sentient rights, I cannot and will not surrender them. The Archon Commander's metallic features twisted in contempt. Your laws are irrelevant. Those beings are property of the Eternal Dominion. Sarah cut the transmission. Well, diplomacy was worth a shot. Status. Quantum core is in position, Nyx reported. Field generators at maximum power. Containment protocols reconfigured, Vex added. But Sarah, there's something you should know. The feedback won't just affect us. Anyone in the research bay when we activate will be caught in a quantum surge that could rewrite their molecular structure at best and destroy them at worst. Sarah was already heading for the research bay. Yeah, I figured. But someone has to control the primary sequence manually. The AI can't adjust fast enough to the quantum fluctuations. Both sisters moved to block her path. "We can't let you," Vex said firmly. "The risk is mine to take." Sarah met all 8 of their eyes steadily. "You broke free of your programming to make your own choices. Now you have to respect mine." A proximity alert blared. The enemy ships were launching fighters. "Besides," Sarah added as they rushed to the research bay, "humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our creativity. It's our willingness to risk everything to protect what we believe in." The research bay had been transformed. The escape pod's quantum core pulsed with impossible colors at its center, surrounded by modified containment fields. Vex and Nyx took their positions on either side, their crystalline forms already beginning to resonate with the core's frequency. "Ready?" Sarah asked from the control station, her fingers poised over the activation sequence. The sisters nodded in unison. "Then let's show the eternal dominion why you don't underestimate humans or their pets." Sarah smiled and pressed the activation key. Beginning quantum surge in 3, 2, 1. The universe held its breath. And then everything changed. Evolution's edge. Reality fractured. The quantum surge exploded outward from Station Helios like a newborn star. Sarah's vision split into multiple overlapping dimensions as the containment fields fought to channel the raw energy pouring from Vex and Nyx. Their crystalline forms had become pure light, singing in frequencies that made the laws of physics shiver. Through the station's sensors, Sarah watched the approaching Eternal Fleet fighters scatter like leaves in a hurricane as the quantum wave hit them. Their own quantum-enhanced systems made them particularly vulnerable, each ship's crystalline core resonating destructively with the surge. But something was wrong. The feedback was stronger than their calculations predicted. Sarah's skin felt like it was trying to exist in several places at once as the quantum field intensified. "The core." Nyx's voice echoed from multiple points in spacetime. "It's not just channeling energy, it's multiplying it." The pod, Vex realized, their forms stretching across possibilities. It wasn't just for escape. It was meant to be a weapon too. A last resort. Sarah's fingers danced across controls that seemed to shift between states of existence. "We have to contain it. The surge will tear the station apart." "We can't." Both sisters cried in harmonic despair. "There's too much power." "Then we don't contain it." Sarah gritted through the reality distortion. "We direct it. Your creators wanted weapons. Let's show them what happens when their weapons choose their own purpose." Understanding flowed between the 3 of them. The sisters' crystalline resonance changed frequency, synchronizing not just with each other, but with Sarah's own quantum-altered biorhythms. The surge responded, coalescing into a focused beam that lanced out toward the approaching capital ships. The Eternal Fleet vessels were masterpieces of quantum-enhanced engineering. Their hulls could deflect conventional weapons, their shields could absorb enormous energy. But they were never designed to defend against their own technology turned against them, especially not when guided by human intuition and free will. The beam struck the lid ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality buckled. The vessel's crystalline components began to evolve, just as Vex and Nyx had evolved beyond their programming. But without organic guidance, the evolution was chaotic, uncontrolled. The ship's quantum core went critical. The explosion rippled across dimensional barriers. The other 2 capital ships tried to retreat, but the quantum cascade had already begun. Their own systems turned against them, crystal lattices growing and changing until they too detonated in bursts of multidimensional energy. In the research bay, Sarah fought to keep the containment field stable as the backlash hit them. Her body felt like it was being rewritten on a molecular level, which she realized it probably was. The sisters' song reached impossible harmonics as they tried to shield her from the worst of it. "Let go," she shouted as reality continued to fracture around them. "Trust your instincts." In that moment of quantum uncertainty, 3 beings made a choice. Instead of fighting the surge, they embraced it. Human adaptability met crystalline evolution, and something entirely new emerged. When the quantum storm finally cleared, Station Helios drifted intact through space. In the research bay, three figures slowly regained consciousness. Sarah opened eyes that now held tiny galaxies in their depths. Her skin shimmered with subtle patterns of light, though still basically human. Beside her, Vex and Nyx had also changed. Their crystalline forms now permanently stabilized into something between their original state and organic life. "Well," Sarah said, her voice carrying just a hint of quantum harmonics, "I guess this means the experiment was a success." Nyx laughed, the sound rippling through multiple dimensions. The Eternal Dominion's greatest weapons, defeated by a human scientist who treated us like people instead of tools. "And now?" Vex asked, helping Sarah to her feet. "We're all something new, neither human nor quantum being." "Now," Sarah grinned, "we do what humans do best. We adapt. We explore. We figure it out as we go along." She looked at her quantum-enhanced hands. "Though we should probably come up with a good explanation for Earth Command about why their research station now has 3 partially crystalline inhabitants who can manipulate quantum fields." "We could tell them we're your pets," Nyx suggested with a smirk. "Or," Vex countered, "we could tell them the truth, that sometimes the best scientific discoveries happen when you ignore protocol and choose to trust." Sarah nodded, already composing her report in her head. The quantum enhancements made multitasking much easier. The truth it is, after all, they'll need to understand if they want to prepare for what's coming. "What do you mean?" both sisters asked. "Well," Sarah's galaxy eyes sparkled, "the Eternal Dominion just lost their 3 most advanced chips and their 2 most powerful weapons. They're not going to just accept that. They'll come looking eventually." She pulled up a holographic display of nearby space. "Which means we have work to do. Humanity needs to be ready. And who better to help prepare them than 3 beings who exist between worlds?" The sisters exchanged looks, then nodded. They had chosen to be more than weapons. Now they would choose to be guardians, teachers, bridges between quantum and organic life. And they would do it not as pets or servants, but as equals, bound together by trust, evolution, and the uniquely human ability to turn the impossible into opportunity. As Station Helios continued its silent orbit at the edge of known space, its 3 inhabitants began planning for the future. The quantum sensors were already detecting interesting anomalies in nearby systems, perfect for testing their new abilities. And if they happened to establish an early warning network for Earth while they explored, well, that was just good scientific practice. After all, the best discoveries were the ones you never saw coming. The end.